What do we have? Some little current events or alerts. 1, 2, 3. Anyone else missing? All right, so we'll do that at the end. Where did we leave off? All right, we left off once again talking about how Steve Cultural dimension, right? How important that plays in line of communication, how we perceive one another. Essentially, how we all have a different program, a different cultural program. How we can view it as sort of cultural glasses. We each wear distinct cultural glasses on, right? And this sort of can either make it very easy for us to understand one another, right? To create meaning, or it may make it very difficult if we come from different sort of worldview and perspectives. So everybody's doing good? What is this? Huh? Does this mean anything else anywhere else? As far as you know. Right? We say here in the West, positive, right? Hey, good, man. A-OK, positive, good job. In West Africa, this means up yours. It's essentially the middle finger, correlated to the middle finger here, right? In parts of, say like Germany, this would mean one. Hey, give me one of those. Right? Here, right? Hey, give me one. Right? Go to Japan, this means 5. Like, why is it mean 1 and 5 in another place? Well, maybe there's a different counting system in terms of being raised a certain way. Like, hey, 1, 2, 3, 5. You come back here, like, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Right, originally, this sort of the origins, as far as we know, historically, this come from the Romans, which, why would the Romans use this? Where is this like? You ever seen this in a movie with the Romans? What?
I forgot what it's called, the gladiator side.
Gladiator, what does this mean?
It's not kill.
Life or death. Right? Yes. You live. No. Get eaten by the lions. Right? So we say, hey, you know, it's very simple things as gestures have completely different meanings, right? Highly offensive in West Africa. Not offended at all in this classroom, right? So like, hey, we are operating on a different program, a different meaning system, different values. So if we're doing business, if we're introducing a product to the market, if we're starting an organization in a foreign country, we have to understand that the messaging can either make or break our success. I think we talked about power distance a lot last class, and one thing in China, there was a colleague of mine who was doing business in China, and he wanted to, they were working on a big deal together, so he invited the individual from China out to dinner, and so the individual from China, right, the Chinese person, said, oh, where would you like me to sit? You know, we're going to a nice restaurant. Where would you like me to sit, right? The American counterpart said, sit anywhere, sit wherever you like. Sounds pretty normal for us, right? It almost sounds like, hey, I'm giving you authority, but I don't know, this is a democracy in this restaurant. Sit wherever you like, feel free. But if we say, hey, in China, there's a high power distance culture, which means authority is respected, authority is valued, and a lack of authority is essentially disrespectful and not taken serious at all. Right? It's disrespectful. And so the person from China called says, hey, I don't think I can do that, ill view. Later on, he comes to find out just simply from the dinner arrangement. He found it disrespectful that the person, the American, bringing him out was not telling him where to sit. But most importantly, to sit right next to me. Because it's about relationships, a component, like the basic culture. Right? Everything matters, distance from each other. So the Chinese individual sitting on the other side of the table, you would think that'd be nice. Oh yeah, how's your food? How's the salad, right? Straight line, like I can see you face to face. That wasn't appreciated because this distance in a relationship and to that Chinese person's mind, it means that we're gonna have a distance relationship. A distance relationship means a lack of trust, right? It means uncertainty, it's kind of risky, I don't know, right? Close relationship, close quarters mean, hey, this line of communication, this bond is strong, it's like a chemical bond. We're here, we can even touch, like practically. And so you're like, well, something as simple as that, because we're not picking up the coding, which is language is a code, right? We're not picking up the coding, we can fail within our marketing efforts, with our advertisements, commercials, packaging, right? Segmentation, all of that. Or we can succeed, right? Succeed by truly understanding what's important to other people. Right, even here, so think about this. When we talk about just basic communications, we have things like we're saying coding, right? Encoding and decoding. Like, hey, okay, encoding, decoding. Sender, receive. Hey, I speak, right? Your sensation captures the sound waves reverberating off the eardrum, right? Goes into the temporal lobe and starts to go into the parts of the brain, and then we say, hey, I am interpreting what you're saying, right? Like, well, how do I interpret? Well, I gotta have some sort of pre-existing reference, right? Some pre-existing knowledge, something that's I've heard some of these words before, or the phonetics, the way it sounds like you're saying this, and that. You're like, well, what kind of barriers can get in the way, right? Sender and receiver, encoding, sending, receiving, decoding. Like, well, one thing that gets in the way, let's say here we have a natural process, right? Nature gave it to us. It is unconscious. So we have a natural mechanism, let's say, like, I can visualize something that this person's saying. I can hear it, there may be some gestures and things like that. All the natural things that we take in and try to interpret. Like, well, what else gets in the way? Well, the next layer, like, these are layers. Natural layers first, the second layer is culture. Right, so we say, hey, the meanings, the symbols, even the words or symbols, we make it mental concepts and images of what's being spoken about. We're visualizing it in some way to interpret it. But it's not really matching up with my pre-existing knowledge of what that should mean. Right? That sounds different. Like, hey, in my culture, we got several meanings for that one word. We got, right, dual meanings, multiple meanings for the same word. What's the context? What's the context? And then maybe the last time, you can say, hey, it's your person. Right? We say culture is group. like, hey, everything, rules, norms, traditions, values, playing a part of understanding, this message that I'm saying, whether it be verbal, nonverbal, what have you. And then you said last level would mean how I personally vote, how do I make a decision with my logic about what's current, right? Because we said the cultural component kind of maybe has some emotional components too, like too close, like this is uncomfortable, right? And then maybe personally, like, all right, I think I understand why that's on this. Right? I think I kind of get it. Or you say, hey, the person's too far away. They must be introvert, extrovert, that could be the interpretation. They're distant, they don't want the relationship, right? They don't want the communication. There's a barrier to something. Now think about that all just with us, right? We say us, when we get to the personal part, we just have a bias. And when we got a cultural part, we have similar culture here because we're all Americans. We're all in America, right? But at the same time, we have a bias. And so you're like, well, that cultural part is like, I feel uncomfortable with that. I'm a religious person. I'm a Haitian person. I don't do that. Right? I'm this ethnic group, right? A little biased, right? So we have all these biases that kind of get in the way of us trying to say, do we either truly want to understand and kind of conform to the conversation or to the people, the others, right, the outgroup? Are we going to hold up a sort of personal wall and say, no, I'm going to reject this and kind of dissolute this communication, right? Dissolve this communication? Or do we conform? We're like, it's a little bit of give and take, right? So we continue sort of communication until it finally starts to make sense. The most important way, I would say, doing this around the globe when you travel is to be more of a listener. When you ask questions, I think in any sort of culture, it's a sign of respect, that you're actually willing to learn. Right? So it's important that you kind of ask questions because it seems like, you're really interested in how we do things. We're on a different program, on a different code. We do things differently here than we do where you're from. Right? There may be appreciation on both sides, but it's important to say maybe ask questions. Right? Even going back to the dinner room, even if my American friend didn't truly understand that concept, but he could have said like, hey, would you like to sit close? Or, something of the sort. Maybe that could have helped, but even still, you're like, well, the Chinese individual respected authority, so maybe they just want to be told. Right? I don't want to do that much thinking on our own, right? It's a collective effort. All right, and so we talked about nonverbal messages, right? Nonverbal communication, all the just different gestures. We could look at Japanese voice saying no, right? In Europe, it's more direct. So a lot of Europeans tend to come off kind of offensive to Americans, right? They kind of come off too direct, which can seem to be very conflict oriented or aggressive, right? Because you're like, somebody immediately just tells you no to simple questions, right? And they seem like things are too rigid to have a fluid conversation, right? Particularly like in Houston, there's a lot of very direct sort of language and gestures being used. All right, which is interesting because you're like, well, we Europeans conquered this territory, so we have a lot of their sort of mindset, perspectives, right? So we're very direct too. We like things clear cut. So we don't believe in this is generalizing, but we don't believe in sort of a fluid right? When we say, hey, we are more concerned with the content of the message as opposed to contents, right? We are concerned with give me the direct message, give me the direct instructions, give me affirmative or negative, yes or no, right? We don't usually gravitate towards the other factors. Like the other factors is like the space, the environment, the time of day, what mood I'm in, right? The other things, like that's not as important to us. What's important is receiving the direct communication. Right? So we don't really like that fluid, nor do the Europeans like that sort of fluid communication. They prefer direct. And maybe some way you find it to be efficient. Right? You do think that, hey, a lot of Western, we'll describe Western, right? European, American mindset is about efficiency, right? Trying to develop the least amount of steps to solve a problem, right? Which is probably good if we're talking about industrial revolution, right? Kind of doing things business-wise to be superior to others. Like, hey, we now let's solve problems with minimal steps, right? And it has been shown throughout history that that is a good approach in many aspects. But then it also leads to a capitalistic point of view, where essentially numbers are valued, such as dollars, money, right? So money is primarily valued here, in other places, other things are valued. Maybe modesty is valued. Okay? So you may think that it gets interesting. Let's say like a person like Donald Trump. Here we have, when we say power distance is kind of low, right? So we get a lot of people that are like, I don't like arrogance, I don't like narcissism, I don't like this is winning mentality. You know, a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but in other cultures they're like, we like that. That sounds like our president, our whoever. President, dictator, king, whatever. So, you know, things like that viewed in other places are kind of taken in a positive light because of the power distance, right? It's perceived as a positive. Whereas here, you're like, well, we live in this democracy, but really we put the people in office, right? It's up to us to get power. And then, therefore, you know, a lot of times that's not taken in a positive way. But it can be, and also can be depending on the culture that we come from as Americans. And we all got our own cultural background, right? So, you can like examine, do an analysis on that, the type of people that maybe really support or you know, kind of resist. You might find some interesting sort of things in there. Like, oh, so their cultural background, so we don't have this and stuff, we don't like it. Other cultural background, like, no, we appreciate that. And we like authority. On clear answers. Give it to us clearly, right? They may feel that the liberals are too, whatever, fluid, wishy-washy, right? The message is not clear. But there's something to think about. Neither here nor there, nothing political, just something to think about. All right, well, like normative cultural, greater reliance on normative cultural knowledge. Remember, going back to communication for high context. High context means hey, we're not as direct, you know, a lot of body language indirect. We expect people to know the culture, right? We expect people to have knowledge about the culture and the norms. Informal information in networks and indirect message formations. All right, some subconscious norms, naive interpretations. Remember we say a lot of these things when it comes to messaging, a lot of it's unconscious. Culture is unconscious, right? You don't even see the nose on your face, right? You don't even see your expressions you give out to people that say, how you looking like? Right? You're like, what? What do you mean? Right? So this is all very unconscious behavior. So things that are happening is sort of automatically. Some naive interpretations, individualist assertiveness, boasting, right? Versus collectivist modesty, self-effacing. So going back and saying, hey, power is that you might like authority, but maybe boasting about money, things like that. You're like, we don't like that, right? We don't like the boasting about everything you have. Here we do kind of like it. We appreciate, we got a Ferrari, oh, Rolls Royce, whoa, where you live at? Famous, right? We like those people who boast about the things, but we don't like people that have too much authority, right? Too much power and authority. So, individual assertiveness, boasting, collectivism, modesty, self-effacing. Latin, two speakers, right? Disinterest, two people speaking at the same time. People are disinterested really in the conversation, right? There's no resolution. Versus Japanese, two listeners, disinterested. Two people talking and not enough, two people having a conversation, not enough talking. So in Japan it would be, no, actually interested. Remember they say they have a issue with saying no. Have an issue with law and that with conversation, right? Difficult. Latin interruptions, rude, right? We can see how it's related to this. Right? Latin interruptions is rude, so it's disinterested. Because we view this rude, viewed in a negative way. Versus Anglo-Saxon stage, boring. And we're talking about stage really is, we kind of taken them multiple ways, really, right? So maybe the stage is we're just watching somebody, everybody's listening, like I said, that's boring, and then maybe everybody talking at the same time, it's exciting, right? So one person speaking lecture could be slightly boring, but then, hey, let's go in the groups and chat. Hear all the disturbances, everybody's in their groups talking. Right? Remember we say, hey, maybe this is a stage, and you're like, oh, it's early, Dr. Ross, kind of boring, right? Or I'm not fully awake. This is a stage. One audience. And then I put you in a group, we'll move the stage, or talking, chatting up, question. And you get all excited. You're awake, right? Western eye contact, right? Man, what are you looking at? Right? You're a creep. Why is it scared? Right? Or, hey man, what are you looking at? Make you stare. Right? We consider that rude here. Like, oh, something's up, right? Our senses go up high, something's awry, something's wrong in a Western viewpoint for eye contact because we're like, I don't know that. We don't know you. Right? So we're like, look at this rude or weird, maybe we would say. Eastern eye lowering, lack of honesty, inattentive. Right? Not really there. Or liar. Right? The person's talking to you in the eyes drop. Why? Why would their eyes drop? Why is that a thing? Why do the eyes drop in these Eastern cultures when it comes to the mind?
So you can't say it to your face.
Yeah. They can't say it to your face. It's too uncomfortable. I mean, think of these natural human behaviors, these mechanisms that we have. Right? Sometimes looking off to the right, you're like, hey, I ask you a question. I look at your eyes. Are you looking right, look left, or stay dead center? It tells me something. Lying, you're truthful, you're really there for what you do. Right? We say the psychopaths and sociopaths don't have an issue with looking away. They don't. They don't have an actual emotional response that will make you uncomfortable about telling them wrong. It doesn't work that way. Their limbic system, their emotional system is too depressed, suppressed, stimulation, makes them uncomfortable about talking a lot. So they are the greatest know, you're like, hey, I mean, imagine you're every day just lying about all the promises and stuff that you're like misinformation, disinformation. But other countries not so much, right? They can't. It's very uncomfortable. Some categories on nonverbal and specific behaviors. Smiling frequency and duration, extent of smile, facial agreement. Hey, how does smiling affect our culture? Or rather, how does it affect you? What do you think it does in terms of communication? Just say, on campus, in normal everyday sort of situations. Tell me how does smiles kind of convey meaning to you? Who here smiles quite a bit? Yes.
I know that I work for public safety here on campus, and one of the things I was told is that if you see somebody walking down the hall, shoot them a smile, make yourself seem nice and presentable.
Yeah, and that makes you what? A non-threat? Will it change their mood, or what do you think? Because as you were instructed, what was kind of purpose?
It kind of gives you it kind of helps them to trust you and make you seem more honest and kind. They can reach out if they need to.
Yeah, you're like, hey, it actually shows us how we're gonna feel the safety and security at the university. Like, imagine we lived in a building and there was serious people who had to talk in security uniform, police. You're like, what's up with this place? These threats, right? Because that would be needed if it was a lot of threats, right? You wouldn't want criminal behavior and then your police and security officers are all smiling and laughing, right? But it can change things. You say your smile is like, oh, we're safe. Hey, how's it going? Right? Thanks for looking out for the institution. But we feel comfortable because the security person is comfortable themselves. It makes us at ease. It puts us at ease. Think of all of our distinct personalities. Like, if I was the type of professor, right, then you probably have professors like this, and man, they never smile. I can't read that professor. I don't know if they're a jerk. I don't know if they're mean. I don't know if they're so serious and fail me. And I don't even know if I can approach them and ask them a question. Right? Those are all real things. But what changes that, man, the demeanor of certain professors. Right, oh man, they smile, they're fun, they seem invited, they seem warm, right? Which makes the students comfortable. Less stressed environment in the classroom. So we talked about eye contact, raised brows, eyebrows raised or lowered. What does it mean to have eyebrows raised in Western culture? Yeah, you say, hey, eyebrows raised is something stimulating of some kind, right? You're shocked to some degree. Is there something? Were you going to say something? Okay. Eyes lowered, seriousness, right? An effort to kind of understand, right? Or serious, a furrowed brow. Expressiveness, facial expressiveness, intensity, facial expression, right? To a degree, and when we look at the personality traits, some of us are introverts and we're quiet, but then sometimes it could be some other things too. We're like, man, we're just kind of low emotionality. We don't really have an emotional response. And then other people always have facial expressions really quickly, right? You can quickly read how they feel. Quickly, whether they're angry, sad, happy, whatever. Other people are stoic things, right? You're not really sure. You can't get a good insight into what they're thinking, how they feel. Nodding, nod frequency. In Japan, right, they nod quite a bit. Everything is seen as sign. This is seen as almost like yes or appreciation, right? Here we don't do that much. We don't lower so our upper body. We just kind of we shake our head in the front room. Self-touch, right? Nose, lip, hand, face, head, or hair. When we say everything has a purpose for communication, so if you're touching your lips, it could be something to do with what you're saying or wanting to say, holding back, right? If you're touching your hair, maybe you feel it as a sign of maybe comfort, right? You feel comfortable to do that. Or a sign of distress. Right? Your mic right here. Just tired, trying to get in a relaxed position. Like, oh, okay, let me get out some energy real quick, come back. Right? Hey, self-touch. Remember we said this is self-soothing mechanism. We're always doing things to make us comfortable. Always, whether we hold our hands together, touch our face. Right? It's almost a sense to kind of hide something real quick while we're making adjustments. Body, leg shifting. Some of us are real big time foot tappers and leg shakers, right? It shows that we're thinking subconsciously. Moving feet, distance, seated position, standing, distance facing to others, right? Seating arrangements. How you sitting in a chair? At an angle. Some people sit at an angle. Some people sit direct, straight forward. Right? Some people, slouch. I think I was sitting down, slouch out my foot, slouch down flat. Right? It all has some sort of meaning. Our level of comfort. All right, other things. Hand on arm, touching you, right? Sports guys, you're like, oh man, probably a lot of touching teammates, right? Congratulations. But those are your friends, right? Like, this is a sign of you shake somebody's shoulder with it. Hey man, good job, right? But hand on arm or shoulder. Here, it may be somebody inappropriate. Right? We might kind of take that inappropriate. Other cultures, it may be very inappropriate. When I remember the first time I went to South Africa and I got off the airport, you know, I seen quite a few gentlemen, like well-dressed, holding hands. Right? That was kind of a culture shock, right? Because I'm thinking of one thing, right? I may be thinking of orientation. And then I remember like the person who was like looking almost like a god was like, no, they're friends. That is a sign of close male friendship. Right? And then we come back here to America, you know, teammates try to hold your hand, you like to feel like it's just a different way, and even very kind of stark contrast, but culture shock, right? I mean, it was a culture shock. Pausing, latency, response latency before speaking, the frequency, right? Here we have a preference to too much silence in between words, makes us bold. You know, here we want frequent talkers, fast talkers, Jordan Peterson types, right? But then also, we can sometimes appreciate a good pause. That means the person maybe has something important that they're about to say. All right, other verbal personal styles. We have person-oriented versus role-oriented, right? We say individualism, low context, power distance, equal status, the sender responsible for unambiguous, effective message, right? That's person-oriented. And then we get role-oriented, receiver responsible for effective message, right? So if it's about the role, it's about the receiver being responsible for conveying effective message, such as in Japan and China, right? ways of kind of addressing people. Right? Which means that, hey, it's more about the receiver sort of showing the impact of the message, right? The response to it. As opposed to person-oriented, right? The receiver is usually quiet, the person talking has to convince, influence someone what the heck they're talking about, right? What they're trying to get to, what they're trying to get to. And in terms of marketing, more important to be understood than to understand, right? So in marketing, we're trying to push out a message. So we're responsible to be understood. But more importantly than trying to understand that culture, right? We want to understand the culture, but the real sort of power is to be understood, that the product, the organization is understood, that it has a strong message. So we keep culturally unique concepts in the native language to signal uniqueness. We question interpreters about the precise meaning in the cultural context and clearly identify shared meaning. Right? So we say, hey, we're trying to find some commonality, maybe between American culture and another culture. Right? The same would go for other cultures towards us. Right? The success of Toyota and Lexus. Right? Maybe they're like, hey, well, shared meaning between Japan and the United States is we love efficiency. Now, their indirect culture, they have a struggle to say no. We don't have a problem saying no. We're more direct. But our commonality is we prefer efficiency. Right? So the Japanese cars really resonate with Americans because it's highly efficient vehicle. Now for us, we're like, hey, we make efficient vehicles, but we're more concerned with the people than the car. So in our culture, like, we're concerned about the union people who work for Ford, how much money they get, how they send their kids to college, their rights and unions. Like, we're more concerned with that. So therefore, you kind of like the American cars, even though we can be highly efficient, focused on individuals instead of the car. Right? So it's like we can't make the perfect car, but we can. Because the focus is on people that build the cars. Right? So you think of that. You think of even our economy now, they're like, hey, we all got some great stuff because of China. Right? We all get unique stuff, we get it pretty quick. And we're like, well, okay, it may take away jobs. A theory, maybe not, but still free market, free open trade. We have that theory, but we like things to be open. We don't want people, government, interjecting, influence, and that. And the government says, hey, no, we got to build it all here. You're like, oh, we can't build it all here. We don't have all of the resources to do that. We import things, we export things that we make. Which means because we have that sort of stifleness, that we can never really have. We could make perfect products, but we really can't. Right? There's just too much things in what people are. Right? Still, when we're talking government, government is people. It's a representation of the people. People are in a way of having perfect sort of products. Right? You can never be that. It's because it's about keeping the jobs. Right? Keeping the jobs for the people. Whereas other cultures like, no, they don't care about that. We're just literally concerned with making the most perfect thing. All right, a few mistakes here in sorts of messaging. Coors. Anybody drink Coors beer? Yeah. All right, so Coors had a tagline called "Turn it loose." In Spanish, it means "suffer from diarrhea." All right. So for Latin America, Coors probably the messaging will not be good. Right? The mindset, the concept will be taken in a very bad way. Chevy Nova, which was a very popular car here in the U.S. maybe about 30 years ago, I would say. Small car, highly affordable, really great on gas. In Spanish, Nova means it doesn't go. Like that's not good. Mark. Pepsi, bring you back to life. In Chinese, Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the grave. Claros, Mist stick, which was a curling iron. In Germany, Mist is slang for manure. So you can kind of see how that would play out. And then Gerber baby food had cute baby on the label. In Africa, companies routinely put pictures on the label of what's inside, since most people can't read. Right? You're like, there's a low literacy there. It's on the label, just put what's inside. Not the baby one. It's an actual baby child, right? It could do it, you can. There's a little literacy there. All right, I will, let me just see, what else I want to cover before you do a little presentation. Most common user languages. This is old data from 2011 for the internet, right? 27% of total internet users speak English, 23% speak Chinese. Users by language, 565 million. Sometimes it goes to show the most common user languages that are currently on the internet. I think here, over 7 million people speak more than one language in the United States, like actual languages. Right? So it means we have a diverse group of individuals that speak dual languages or more. Okay. I will end off there. I'll let you come up here and show us what you got. Who's up first? Alan? And I will take it out of your station. Or you can just. There we go. Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. I did mine on the ban of red number 3. So manufacturers who use this will have until January 15th of 2027 or January 18th of 2028 to remove this from their products and reformulate their products that have it in it. Their concerns with this is the health impact on hyperactivity and behavioral issues. They mostly found this like in children. So in the 1980s, the FDA actually banned red number 3. It was used in cosmetics and external drugs. After it had been tied to thyroid cancer, since it did not relate to food products, it still remained in food. Their shift is to focus more on natural alternatives, so like beet root powder, spinach powder, and turmeric.
And so those were all items that had the red number 3.
Oh yeah,
Wow,
pictures, so like
like
Skittles,
Skittles.
yeah, Peeps, Pop-Tarts, stuff like that.
Do you think he has other intentions or motives for wanting to work out with you?
I think he just don't agree with what the guy is saying.
Alright, that's all. Well, Twitter is, Twitter's an information